There you go, there you go, there you go. Howling Fear, Tremor. Oh, there you go, Tremor Totem! OP! Utility is there. Utility is there. Resto Shaman's best 5-man healers. We are looking at Restoration Shamans today. We're doing Tol Dagor. I don't know if I'm even saying this. Resto Shaman changes, not as bad as I might have thought at the beginning, because Ancestral Guidance is removed. Ancestral Guidance was such a nice talent to go with. Right now it's not there, so like a lot of the synergy with Ascendance, if you do end up using Ascendance with Ancestral Guidance, a lot of synergy with Cloudburst Totem. Now, at the start, you probably heard me talking or like being super sad about the fact that Cloudburst Totem was no longer, working with overheal, only effective healing. Right now, you can see that it's been reverted. So it actually, what it says is that that collects power from all of your healing spells. So Cloudburst is still there, thank God. But the sad fact about it is that Cloudburst replaces Healing Stream Totem. Cloudburst replaces Healing Stream Totem, which is not a huge deal, but you also have to take into the fact that Ancestral Guidance is no longer there. And you also have to take into the fact that Cloudburst might not be as powerful anymore. I know what Blizzard is trying to do with this kind of a talent choice. They're trying to say like, hey Mr. Shaman, you're not supposed to pick just Cloudburst all the time. You're supposed to actually think about which spells you're going to use. So I kind of agree with it, but at the same time, it's sad to see. It's sad to see Cloudburst replacing Healing Stream and making it somewhat kind of nerfed. Besides that, there's a lot of talent changes. Actually, probably if you look at the talent choices right now, talents have been like reshuffled, redone. Like if you look at the talent tree right now, you're like, what's going on? There actually isn't that many talent changes, but it makes it kind of look like it. First of all, tier 30, you have Crashing Waves, which have been nerfed. Crashing Waves used to give you 2 stacks of Tidal Waves after using Riptide. Right now, it's not doing that. It just increases the effect of Tidal Waves. So that's kind of a biggish nerf for 5-man healing, because as you know, in 5-man healing, Crashing Waves are really strong. Or at least Crashing Waves were battling with Ancestral Guidance. Besides that, you also have Deluge, which possibly become a raid talent, which is interesting because Chain Heal heals for additional 20% on targets which are healing rain or affected by a Riptide. So it's more like, do I need bigger spot healing or do I need more raid healing? And then you also have Earth Shield. Earth Shield at the start was actually pretty garbage because it just counted as a hot. It didn't do that much healing. But they changed it. Now, an Earth Shield target, all of the healing on the Earth Shield target will be increased by 10%. So, possible use for maybe 5-mans for raids. So you're like stuck like, do I need spot healing with Crashing Waves? Do I need AoE healing with Deluge? Or do I actually need to keep the tanks alive? Or some priority targets alive? So it's a legitimate choice right now. It feels like a legitimate choice. Of course, the numbers might not be there yet, but this is what Blizzard is trying to achieve. Shamans and Mistweavers are actually the only healers right now that have AoE Stone as a baseline. AoE Stone, or the Capacitor Totem, which has been renamed right now, it is a baseline. Every Shaman will get it, every Mistweaver will have the stun with the kick or whatever it's called. So that's interesting. So you do have even more synergy now. You have, not synergy, you have more viability in 5-man dungeons and raids because AoE stones are being pruned, and only very few classes who have those. And right now you can spec into Static Charge, which reduces the cooldown of Capacitor by 5 seconds for each enemy that's stoned. So it depends which one. Spirit Wolf, I feel, is really strong in this tier. So while transformed into Ghost Wolf, you gain 5 increased movement and 5 reduction in damage. So if you go to Ghost Wolf and you actually stay there a couple of seconds, you'll see that I get 4 stacks. And all of a sudden my movement is increased by 20 and damage is reduced by 20%. This is really important because the Healing Stream Totem no longer gives you damage reduction like it does in Legion. So damage reduction is really important, especially if Shamans want to stay competitive in high Mythic Plus scene. It's really important. This is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at shamans trying. Imagine a shaman doing well in Mythic Dungeon Invitational, in Battle for Azeroth. Maybe that will be possible. Maybe that will be possible. I really don't like the fact that Crashing Waves will give you 2 stacks of tidal waves. I kind of like the fact of, you know, riptiding and then having 2 stacks. But the fact is, in tier 75, you see how weird this talent choice is. Usually tier 30 is like movement speed abilities. Tier 45 is like the CC abilities, and now that's kind of been swapped around. It's been swapped around quite a lot. So you see in 75 you have movement abilities, Graceful Spirit, Wind Rush Totem, which are the same. All good, all good. But now you have Nature's Guardian. When your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 20%. Cannot occur more than 45 seconds. Now I could not test this out fully, but other people have tested it out and they kind of told me that this might prevent one-shot abilities, or at least abilities that don't, you know, they're not going to overkill you by 20 million or something. I've heard that this is actually supposed to be quite strong. So let's assume, I will probably leave a comment or something like that say after testing it. Let's assume Nature's Guardian actually prevents one-shot abilities. So if you're about to get one-shot by a boss or something, you don't have enough stamina, don't have enough defensives, and let's say this saves your life. Potentially very, very, very strong in high Mythic Plus, giving Resto Shamans more viability, on top of the fact that you have Ghost Wolf, you can stay in Ghost Wolf and have reduced damage, and you also still have the Astral Shift, although it is still 1.5 minute cooldown, so it is quite long. With Nature's Guardian, you could possibly be pushing high Mythic Plus, high Tyrannical Mythic Plus in Battle for Azeroth, where bosses will one-shot you. Every 45 seconds you have something like an auto bubble. Now, it needs to be tested, so this is all kind of assumptions right now. Possibly really strong, maybe not that strong after testing, but it's looking very interesting, and in my opinion, a step forward towards healer balance in 5-man dungeons. And why do I say that? Because Resto Druid Bear form has been substantially nerfed. So in tier 90 we have one new talent. Echoes of the Elements, I feel, is still going to be extremely, extremely strong in 5-man dungeons, because Echo of the Elements will give you 2 Riptides. 2 Riptides will give you 2 stacks of Tidal Waves. Tidal Waves are basically bread and butter for 5-man healing. So I still feel Echoes of the Elements is going to be extremely strong. Now Downpour. Cloudburst could be extremely strong as well. Like I said, it takes in all of the healing. It's not just effective healing, so it's still strong. But the fact is, it does replace Healing Stream Totem. So let's look at the new talent, Downpour. So Downpour is very, very interesting because it replaces Healing Rain. So you might be asking, what the hell, I'm replacing Healing Rain? Healing Rain is literally like the most important Resto Shaman spell. It's why I'm playing Resto Shaman. Now, the fact is, the Downpour is an attempt for Blizzard to actually give viability to Resto Shamans on fights where Healing Rain might not be viable. Let's say for a fact you're doing a raid boss that there's a lot of movement, not a lot of people are stacking. What Downpour does is basically, Downpour is your artifact ability on steroids. Your artifact ability on steroids. So what it does is basically heals, a burst of water at the target location heals up to 6 injured allies within 12 yards. Cooldown is increased by 5 seconds for each target effectively healed, and its default cooldown is 5 seconds. So if you heal, and by effective healing, it means you actually have to heal 6 people. So healing 6 people is going to add 30 seconds, the default cooldown is 5. So if you heal 6 people with this spell, it's going to have a 35-second cooldown. So it's actually quite hefty, but the fact is, this is the scenario that we have in 5-man dungeons or whatever. Let's say on some niche scenarios. People are not stacking up, but they might be stacking up for this portion of the raid. And then they have to spread out. And using this ability would be possibly better than Healing Rain. Because if people move out of Healing Rain after 1 or 2 seconds, it's kind of useless. So this is Blizzard's attempt of, hey Mr. Shaman, I know you've been playing Healing Rain all the time. This fight is terrible for Healing Rain. We got you. We're going to give you a talent that's trying to battle away the meta of Resto Shamans. being stacked up healers, which is very, very interesting. Whoa, this is not boogie at all, which is very, very interesting to be honest, because right now you won't be tied into the healing rate. The fact is, the numbers need to be checked. The numbers might be terrible, it might never be viable, but at least this is what Blizzard is trying to do. In tier 100, there is nothing much changed. Ascendance is here, Wellsprings, High Tide. I mean, the fact that High Tide is not really viable in 5-mans, I was kind of upset about that, because I really hoped that Blizzard would do something that make my chain heal more potent in 5-man healing, because it would be so interesting to actually be rewarded for healing or being a smart healer. Like, for the fact, like, I see the tank is taking damage, but I see the warlock also needs healing. I'm just gonna chain heal. It might be viable. Like, maybe High Tide could scale with the size of your group and make your chain heal better in 5-mans. Like, we saw that happening with Tranquility, with big cooldowns. Tranquility is much stronger in 5-man dungeons, because if it wasn't stronger, it wouldn't be worth using it. So why not make chain heal kind of scale with that as well, and make chain heal actually a viable option? Because in Legion, it was all about Riptide from Crashing Waves or from Echo of the Elements. You have 2 Riptides or 2 stacks of Tidal Waves, and then you'll be just using Healing Surge or Healing Wave. And that is a really, really kind of simplistic game style. And I don't know how many people actually enjoy that, but the fact right now is, you don't have Crashing Waves. Crashing Waves are not as strong. You probably will spec into Echo of the Elements, but it'll be so much more interesting to get, like, you know, you won't be using Healing Rain in 5-mans unless something changes. The only reason in Legion that you use Healing Rain in 5-mans is if you have tier 21 4 set. Tier sets are going away in Battle for Azeroth, so right now it's just looking very, very simple playstyle of placing your Riptide, if I become unsilent, placing your Riptide, and then just using your Healing Surge or Healing Rain or Healing Wave, and that's it. It's not looking overly interesting, if you know what I mean. But the fact is, you're a healer with an AoE storm. You're the only healer with an actual interrupt, which is only 12 seconds. So the support element of Resto Shamans is still alive and well. It's still alive and well.